Hello everyone, welcome to Reignite. I'm Cathy Grant. So today we are delighted to welcome a hugely talented guest. He's a man of many names, so I'm not sure how we're going to address him. Do we say Moon Raider? Do we say demonic? Do we say doggy? Or do we say musical partner of Wolfgang Flur? Well, we'll get back to all that later. And let's just simply say hello and welcome to Mr. Peter Duggal. Good morning, Peter.
Hello. Hi, Cathy.
Hi there. Hiya. How is beautiful Hebden Bridge this morning?
Hebden Bridge is lovely. Absolutely beautiful. It's pretty sunny. It's nice. It's a beautiful place. I know you've not been yet.
Not yet. It's on the bucket list, especially if you've got sunshine, because it's grim and cloudy in Milton Keynes today.
Oh, really? Oh, it's
yeah,
always
it's horrible.
Here. It's so sunny here, always. I promise.
The sun always shines on Hebden Bridge.
That's what the song was written about.
Yeah, indeed it was. Oh, can I just say hello and welcome to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys all for showing up. I can see you all there. Anders, Renee, Chris, Danielle, everyone's there. Kitty from Australia has joined us. I'm not sure what time it is over there, but heavens above. Thank you guys. Hope you're going to enjoy this show. We've got a lot to get through, but we have to start, Peter, with the most important thing of the day. For today is the day that the Birmingham Remix limited edition comes out on Cherry Red Records, doesn't it?
It does indeed, and I'm really, really, really happy with it. It's a beautiful thing. In fact, mine hasn't arrived yet, and if the postman arrives during this interview, you'll know because my dog will go crazy, and you'll hear in the back. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not generally a person who's massively into remixes. I like the idea of reworks, you know, and the people who've reworked the song on this CD, I mean, they've really got into the bones of it, and they've really felt the song, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, Peter Hook's obviously done his version of it with his engineer Phil Murphy. They work as Man Ray. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The bass is loud and upfront. And then there's a guy called Cosmo who's done this really swirling, epic, beautiful, floaty version of it, and he's changed the arrangement, so it's almost like a different song, you know. And it's beautiful. And there's another couple of remixes by a guy called Impu and TSF. They're really, really good, really good. I'm not just saying that because it's something I'm involved with, but it's genuinely really, really beautiful. So yeah, I'm pleased with it.
Well, I think like I said to you before we came on air, I posted your Facebook post about it. And a friend of mine, Matt Bridges, already rushed over to Cherry Red Records and got his copy because there's a limited amount, right? People need to get over to Cherry Red very quickly.
Yeah, there are only a few left, and it's strictly limited. So yeah, I highly recommend it. But then, you know, I would.
Yeah. And if anyone needs to get to Cherry Red, if they look at the show description, the link to Cherry Red is in the description. So they can just click on that, get over there and get your copy. Do not miss out. You just said then if there was a package, we were going to know because of your dog would alert us. Now there's somebody that you know, Paul Wilkinson, has sent in a few questions, and one of them was, how does your lovely dog feel about being a bit of a social media star? Because you're on tour at the moment, and when you were in Scotland, you did some amazing pictures of the beast of the loch. So how is she coping with the superstardom?
She's brilliant. I mean, you know, there's something lovely about the dog just wandering in the studio when you're writing and just sitting down, and you know. But yeah, she's. I think she's managing it okay. Let's say that. You know, I think she's handling it okay. Yeah, we had the trip to Scotland was a little break, in a place called Inverary, and
not been, yeah,
it's
it looked gorgeous.
Is it Loch Fyne? But it's like a sea loch, so it's tidal, and the scenery there is just so stunning. So just taking her for a walk, you know, and in the morning, and she dive straight into the loch, and when she was emerging, I just saw this photo with the mountains in the background, and it was
brilliant.
It's lovely. Yeah, she's great.
So now you give me another one. I've got to come on my bucket list. I've got Hebden Bridge. Now I've got to go to Loch Fyne. I'm just start travelling around. See, all this time in lockdown, I need to start getting out and about.
Yeah, totally. Oh, it's lovely up there. Really lovely.
Oh, gorgeous. So we said that so obviously Magazine1's been doing fantastically well in the chart. The album that you worked on with Wolfgang. And we've got the remixes out today, and you're currently on tour. So hopefully my producer is going to put up the tour dates for us and scroll them across the bottom. But how's the tour going so far?
The tour's been fantastic. I mean, you know, the whole COVID thing was obviously problematic for anyone who was trying to play live or go on tour with whatever they were doing. But it also affected the venues so much. So there's been this, there seemed to have been a little bit of reticence after COVID for people to actually just get out and just go for it again, you know. But I personally was really surprised. I mean, it's been so good, so well attended, really busy. The vibe's been amazing. Feedback's been fantastic. You know, couldn't have asked for any more, really. And you know, the touring's also about spending a lot of time with Wolfgang. You know, we meet up and we'll go for lunch. We'll travel around a new city or wherever we are. Sometimes we come up with ideas for songs, you know, while we're traveling, and get them down and build ideas. So yeah, I really treasure those times when I'm touring with Wolfgang, because obviously, you know, first and foremost, he's just a very, very, very close friend of mine, more than anything, you know. So it's just lovely to spend time with him. He's just a warm. I mean, obviously you've met Wolfgang and you've interviewed him, and you know he's a tremendously warm-hearted, generous human being. So it's good, you know. He's just a good person.
We actually said after the show we'd like to adopt him as our uncle, because he's just an absolute treasure. He's such a lovely guy. Lovely guy. So we're definitely going to get out and see you both on tour. Like I said, we're thinking maybe as the dates are coming across, there's the one in Birmingham on June the 17th, and you did a tweet about that. The venue, the what was it, the Hare and Hounds? It was your first ever gig you played.
Yeah, it's a really special venue for me because I've always been in bands and I've always done music, obviously. So when I was 17, I was in a band called Dream, and very guitar-y kind of alternative sort of band. And we had some great songs, and yeah, we did our first ever concert at the Hare and Hounds. So kind of going full circle and playing there, what, if that was 1990, 32 years later, will be pretty special. Yeah.
God, it was 1990, 32 years ago. Now you're scaring me.
Yeah.
Jeez. No, it'd be lovely though for you. It would have been a nice feeling to go back there again, especially with, I don't know, do you think of Wolfgang almost as your big brother now?
Yeah, I mean, he often refers to me as me being like a brother to him, you know, and I do as well. That's what it feels like. He's just a lovely guy, you know, and it's kind of strange, the chemistry that we had instantly when we met. On the back of Magazine1, there's a photo of me and Wolfgang stood together, and the photo was taken about an hour after we'd very first met, you know, and it's kind of crazy now that photo is now on the back of it album I've done with him, obviously, which is kind of strange, but I think it just goes to show we just instantly had this chemistry, because I picked him up from the airport when he was doing a show here, and I did have a CD ready. I have to admit that I was going to put on the car stereo. I'll just give it a blast and just see what Wolfgang thinks of it. You've got an hour to kill.
Why not?
Yeah, he got in the car and he said, I don't really want any music on. I'm a bit tired. So I was like, so I gave him the CD when I dropped him at the airport the next day, and he called me 2 days later, and he really, really found it beautiful and inspiring, and it all kind of started from there, really, you know. So we kind of had that chemistry as friends, and then this discovery that he was really into the music I was doing at the time kind of kicked everything on, really.
Yeah, there's just a natural bond form. Oh, I've just seen somebody else in the chat, Francesca. She was on Facebook earlier. Thank you for joining us, Francesca. But yeah, it is. It's just, it comes across that, because I've seen interviews where you're both on together, and it just seems very, very natural, the dynamic in the relationship between the two of you. So it's clearly working.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you know, I've always been a Kraftwerk fan as well, you know, since the age of...
I was going to ask you that. You were, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved really kind of dystopian electronic music. I think my era was, you know, especially the Thatcher years and how all of that came together. The whole concern about computers and how they were going to overtake the world, and parents weren't worrying about them, you know, taking all the jobs, and the children not, you know, living in some kind of dystopian kind of wasteland when they grew up. I kind of loved all that idea. And there was the whole nuclear threat thing, so there was like threads and all these things on TV. And all these things are like pretty traumatizing to a 7 or 8 year old boy, and a 7 or 8. Traumatizing to anyone, and so, but the music seemed to soundtrack that whole fear and that kind of clinical beauty of machines. I just thought those Kraftwerk records really brought that across, but in a romantic and beautiful way often as well. So it's strange to think that was now, I mean, coming back to the present, I mean, people always say, it must be really weird, that you kind of travel with Wolfgang and work with him, and sometimes I think, it is slightly odd, really, but within a few days, all of that is by the by. It's all about the person, and I never really think of, I occasionally obviously think about it, but I don't generally think about him in those terms. It's
I was going to say, because our friend Paul that we mentioned, he said, was there a time at the beginning where you felt starstruck when you met him?
I think maybe for the first couple of hours, and but I mean, we started walking around Hebden Bridge, and he put his helmet on, and he was marching on the bridge and everything.
Love him.
There's so much humor there, and kind of craziness. I was instantly drawn to him as a person, and that. I mean, it's obviously was weird on the first day, because it would be. But then eventually it's just, I mean, that was like 7 years ago now. So
I was going to say, how long has it been? So about 7 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Somebody in the chat has just said, does he like Jaffa cakes? We'll get to that. That's later. Give us a chance. We'll get to the biscuits, which we're talking important music stuff here first.
We're building up to the serious stuff.
Is it what people tune in for? Biscuits, Peter. Yeah. What can I tell you? So anyway, right, I'm gonna throw us back somewhere now, and I'm gonna go back through your past, and I'm going to think about days of yore and the Peter of yesteryear. So what I would know, because I work as a teaching assistant in a school, so I'm always curious to know what were you like as a child? Were you good at school? Did you study? Did you do your homework? What was Peter like?
I was absolutely amazing. No, I'm only joking. I
would say that.
No, I was the youngest of 6. So, and we lived in a pretty deprived area in Birmingham, in a pretty small house. So, space was always an issue. So I was the kind of, being the youngest of 6, plus my mum and dad, plus my grandmother lived with us. And on occasion, my dad thought we should get a lodger. And this was a very small house. So,
wow.
I was constantly looking for places to hide or escape to, and maybe music was one of those places. And I was always just kind of, you just wanted to get away from the noise and the chaos, and it was generally quite chaotic where I was. So I mean, school, I liked primary school a lot, actually, and I found it quite, it was quite a nice place in terms of the friends I had, and we all lived nearby. Everyone lived in Handsworth, and you'd make friends at school, and then you could go and spend time at those friends' houses at the weekends and so on. So that was all great. And then we got a computer at the school as well. There was like some national scheme, and I just loved it. I was so drawn to this machine, and you could just type in obscure commands, and you could create worlds, and I found that a really beautiful place to escape to as well. So I think that kind of fueled my fascination with technology, really, and the kind of technology and music together. I think they were just my escape. But I did study well as well. I found studying, education, obviously, fascinating, and I always did pretty well at school. Did well at primary school.
What were your top subjects? What were you good at, and what were the ones that you used to think, oh God, not? Because it was me, it was double maths. It's like, oh God, no, not double maths.
Yeah, no, I was always good at maths. I liked maths, and you need to be good at maths to be good at programming, obviously, and computers.
Yeah, of course.
Kind of really, I was generally good at maths. I wasn't so good at history. I've always had trouble remembering kind of factual things, just events and times,
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's I thought it was just old age, but actually you just reminded me when I was younger I was terrible at it anyway. So,
no. See, I was terrible at maths, and I'm still terrible at maths.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's everyone's got a different strengths, haven't they? And I think I was one of only 3 or 4 people from my whole school to get a place at grammar school, actually. So then I ended up going to grammar school in Handsworth, which is which probably, when I look back, is one of the worst things that ever happened to me.
Why?
Was just terrible, a terrible thing. I mean, I was quite excited that I got in there, but it was an all boys school for starters. I mean, and it was fine for me because I had 3 older sisters, and I just find it really odd when you put people into these environments, kind of single sex environments, just at the point where they they're going through puberty and growing up and learning about people, and so whereas it was fine for me, a lot of the kids at my school who didn't have that kind of female interaction, they just ended up getting stranger and stranger. They couldn't look women in the eye or girls in the eye without being intensely awkward or nervous. And I don't know. And the school was fairly draconian, and I hated every living second of going to that school, I have to say. So yeah, it wasn't a great experience. So
so primary school good, senior school no.
Yeah, but it was a school that you were meant to be really, really happy about going to, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. So at the end of it, I didn't stay in the 6th form. I left in the 5th year because I just couldn't wait to get away. I was one of only 4 or 5 people who left, actually, and it was like a slight on the school that you dare leave that school, when you get to that. So yeah, so sorry, yeah, primary school was brilliant, but secondary school was I wish I'd never gone to that particular school. Yeah,
I agree. The segregation thing is weird because I went to an all-girls school as well, so I get exactly what you're saying there. Yeah, I was at an all-girls school.
So with the most
horrendous. Yeah, I do think it does hinder certain aspects of your personality and your development.
Yeah,
I suppose again, like me, I had a bigger brother, and the kids. I mean, you were probably like me. The evenings were spent. You got them from school, you got changed, you went out in the street and had a game of kickabout. And I was kind of lucky that most of the kids in my area, my brother and all his mates, so I used to be a tomboy. So I guess I got that interaction out of school. But I can think of people that possibly it did affect, and it could have made them socially awkward with the opposite sex. Do you know, I've never even thought of it that way. Maybe.
Yeah, but I still know people who went to my school who just have never really recovered from that. It's kind of
still traumatized.
I mean, a lot about. So, I mean, with my own kids, that was one thing that I was absolutely adamant about, that they're going to go to a school it's not just about learning; it's just about interacting with people from as many different backgrounds, and just learning how to engage with people and just enjoying that side of life. So yeah, it was a good lesson in a way, because I certainly wasn't going to want kids to go through this thing. So,
and was it at school that you started getting an interest in music? Obviously, you said with the computer side of it, but you play instruments. I don't know what instruments you played. Did you learn them at school, or did you learn them some other way?
Yeah. So I'm self-taught. I mean, 2 of my brothers are into music as well, so there were always instruments in the house. There was always drums. There were guitars. There were just things lying around. So I just gravitated towards them and learnt how to. I just learned myself how to play them, really, just by picking them up and copying what I was hearing, songs I liked, learning how to play simple chords. And but drumming was my first. Drums were my first real instrument, and I really enjoyed learning to play the drums. And then I joined a band when I was 17, and it all kind of kicked off from there, really, in terms of writing. So oh, you're back. Did you disappear then?
I don't know what he's up to. I don't know what he's up to in there.
That's drumming, guitar, basically.
Do you know what I think it is? I think he wants to get onto his bit of the show, and he's trying to hurry us along, Peter. Right, one more question. Musical influences or heroes? That's what I wanted to know about. I mean, you said you were a fan of Kraftwerk. Who else?
So obviously, I mean, I don't know about heroes, but I mean, there's so much music and so many artists I admire. But with me, it's not always just about artists. It's just I will hear a song and I'll be somewhere and it will just completely captivate me. And you know, it could be anybody, and it could just be a little melody in a chorus. It could be you know, just some of the words in the verse, and I can just get completely transfixed. You know, so. But generally, I mean, a lot of the artists I like, I mean, it changes from week to week. But yeah, I was really into New Order when I was younger as well. Obviously, loved the whole amalgamation of synthesizers and guitars and what they were doing. And I tend to like things that aren't artists who aren't really technically proficient or amazing. You know, I like that kind of struggle between not necessarily being able to play your instrument that well or sing that well, but really trying to push yourself to reach those kind of worlds, you know, despite your kind of limitations. I sometimes find when, you know, someone has a 58 octave range or on their voice or whatever it is, or they can, you know, do all those kind of solos on the guitar, you sometimes tend to just do them for the sake of them. I just like simplicity. And I think all the best art just comes from having the most limited tools at your disposal, really, because you have to push, you know. And with everything now, with computers and technology, you can have so many tools just by opening your laptop and downloading a few pieces of software. I think what happens is you can get swamped, you know, with all this amazing technology, and you sometimes forget what it is you're actually trying to do, you know, which is to create something, to create some art, some music, or
go back to the basics.
Yeah. Sorry, are these answering your questions, or am I waffling a bit?
No. He just wants to get on. He's not going to yet. So before I had another thing before he's allowed to come on. And anyway, the more waffle we have, the better, because we'll just keep you here all day, and you're not waffling.
Yeah, it's great.
Right, we want it right at the start. Right at the very start, I said you had loads of different names. Obviously, you're Peter. And it's Duggal, not Duggal. And I'm sorry, I mispronounced that last time I mentioned you on the show. My apologies. We had Doggy, Demonic, Moonraider.
Yeah.
Why those names in particular? What's the origins of them? And when you finish that question, I want to know, have you got any other nicknames?
Yeah, so when I was going back to the other question about learning instruments, when I was about 16, I really got into writing music with computers. So a machine came out called the Atari ST, which was kind of revolutionary because it had MIDI ports in it. So it meant you could basically plug in a digital keyboard and you could compose tracks with multiple instruments. So yeah, that was it. That was it for me. Everything kind of opened up. So I started writing some music using that. And I eventually got a record deal. It was like kind of acid house record, and I didn't have a name, and had to decide on a name kind of quickly. And someone said, "You've got two dogs. Why don't you call yourself Doggy?" And a lot of people use that as a nickname for me anyway, so I just used that name, and it seemed to work quite well. And then I released a second acid house record with the same label. But they were a very small, well, they weren't a small label, but they didn't have many artists, so they wanted me to change my name. And Demonic was just a name I kind of plucked out of thin air at the time. Can't remember where it came from. But yeah, that's how Doggy and Demonic. That's where they came from. Oh wow! What happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. You go on full screen. And then the next thing that happens is I pop up. The reason that I put you on before, I was just checking to see it was working, because you never know with these things. You know all about technology and its funny ways. So I'm just going to come on for a bit, because obviously you're a musical genius. And the big news with you is obviously at the moment Magazine1 with Wolfgang Flur, and you touring with him. I just wonder, with your collaboration with Wolfgang, how that initially came about. Did you just swap, you know, information after you met him and then he picked up on it? But the working process, how did that really start?
It was pretty organic, really, in many ways. Like I was saying to Cathy earlier, when we met, and I gave Wolfgang a CD of mine, and he just happened to really, really love it. A lot of the music that was on what I gave him was pretty soundtracky stuff. I was doing a bit of work for a film that never came out at the time. So just creating soundscapes and ideas, and he really, really loved it. And then I was in Dusseldorf. Actually, I was in the Black Forest for a wedding for an old friend of mine, and me and my family were there, and we traveled around Germany a little bit, and Wolfgang invited us to stay in Dusseldorf for a few days, which was really a beautiful time. We went for lots of walks down the Rhine, and we had ice cream and coffees in some of his favorite places, and we just naturally started talking about music, and it developed into a discussion about potentially working together, using some of the ideas I had and he had, and just basically working them together into songs, not with any kind of vision for doing an album or anything, just because we liked each other and we liked each other's music. And it just developed from there. And then he invited me to join him for a show in London back in 2016. And yeah, I think it just moved in a really natural way. We just started writing more and more. We started touring more and more, spending more and more time together. And
wow.
And yeah, and COVID obviously hit, and we really did kind of nail the remaining bits of the album during COVID, because there were no touring, no distractions, and we were just working really, really hard every day on finishing it.
And talking of collaborations, obviously you've got Midge, Peter Hook on Magazine1. What was it like working with these other artists? Were there any issues?
Not really. And I think the really nice thing about it all was that you work with these people who you have a lot of respect for, a lot of admiration for, and then you realize they're actually really, really genuinely lovely people. I mean, and these are people who have been through the industry and actually, in some cases, seen the very worst of what that industry has to offer. In some cases, has taken a lot away from people, and so on. But ultimately, it's all about the music, and when it comes down to it, the music is what fires everyone up. And there were no issues at all. I mean, Peter Hook's just a fantastic guy. He's fascinating. He's interesting. Obviously, I was saying earlier, I've loved New Order all my life, and it was just great to work with him. Midge, again, just a fantastic, lovely, warm-hearted guy. It's great. There's no ego. There was nothing like that we had to navigate. And Wolfgang's very, very, he's very much a person who works with people based on how much he likes them as people first and foremost. He can't really work with someone who's like that. So yeah, I mean, anyone Wolfgang and me end up working with, it's usually because we really like them as people as well, first and foremost. So yeah, the very fact that they're on the record, you can be sure of that. So yeah, there were no issues. Like, we didn't have to tiptoe around any.
Fantastic. Well, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all musicians, you're artists, and you're just looking to get the best track down and the best work there, really. And talking about being a musician, kit. Now, I was in a techno trance act a million years ago, and that was the time when analog was switching to digital. So I wanted to ask you about your studio setup, your kit, what your favorite synths are. What are you using? How are you making these beautiful sounds, Peter?
How many hours have we got on this?
14.
Oh, right. Okay. Fine. I'll start at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
I love synthesizers. I love analog synths. I love digital. I just love synthesizers, and I love anything that makes a noise. Anything you plug in at the wall and makes a noise, I'm kind of quite into. So, but in terms of kit, it's funny. I'm going through a bit of a rebuild at the moment in my studio, because it's a very small room. It's 8 foot by 6 foot, and I was actually getting dwarfed by all the synths I had in here. So I've built a little loft space in the room, and I've put a few of them away. And I'm going to just take one out every few weeks and just really, really focus on it, you know. So yeah, I've got things like nothing ridiculous like a Jupiter 8 or anything, but just things like a Juno 6, Korg Poly 6, an Oberheim Matrix 6. Anything with a 6 in it is often. I've had them all over the years, and you know, I was a bit silly really in the early 2000s because I sold all my kit and bought a laptop. This is quite traumatic reliving this actually. Sold a Memory Moog 303, Moog Prodigy.
Oh wow!
Sold them all.
I used to use ESQ1. That's how far back we're going. Yeah, that was. I mean, that was. And if we took it on stage, that was so heavy. So do your weightlifting taking that around, but you got some really good sounds out of it, and the program on it is really good. But I mean, I'd love to come and see your studio. It sounds amazing.
You're very welcome.
Oh, thank you. Right, it's on camera. That's recorded. There's no escape from that. So, what about doors? What do you use for your computer software?
I'm an Ableton man, basically, because I mean, it's one of the things that reignited my whole. See, I use the word reignite then without thinking.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that.
I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So when I was in the Atari ST days I was talking about earlier, I used to use something called Dr. T's KCS, which is
remember
it. I don't know if you've heard. Do you remember it? It was like a
yeah. I never used it, but there was a studio we used to go to that the guys there, they were a post-production team and they used it. Yeah. I just went there to play Chucky Egg and stuff.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, if people looked at it, it just looked like a bit of a spreadsheet with text, but it was it's basically the tool that, to me, if Ableton were inspired by it, if Ableton didn't basically take it and remodel it, they were at least inspired by it. Because that what I find Ableton does that I really love is the whole separation of left brain, right brain, kind of the whole creative, getting everything out of your head, all the sketches, all the ideas, and then worrying about, you know, the real craft later of arranging and putting things in the right sequences and the timeline. I think the problem with a lot of doors for me is because they use the whole tape machine metaphor. You open them up and you're instantly looking at this big timeline, and you know, to me that was always kind of weird really. It's like, why are you thinking about the arrangement when you haven't even written anything yet? Ableton was very clever in doing that. You know, the session view where you just spit everything out of your brain. You come into the studio, within 10 minutes you've got all these little ideas on a grid, and you can use various combinations of them and try different ideas out, and then you worry about the arrangement later. That's why I really love Ableton, and it's all one screen. There's no menus and menus and menus. It's written for people who just want to write music. I find, you know, it's
that's the important thing, you know. When you, for example, something like FL Studio, when you open it up, I mean, the channel rack is great, but you try and write a track, you've got to learn how to use it. And I'm sure once you do, it's a fantastic piece of software. But you want to, if you're a musician, you want to get your ideas down. The other question I was going to ask was, you did MSc in music tech. What made you do that? Because you were a working musician at the time and gigging and stuff. But what made you want to go into that side of things, the study side?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't actually a professional musician then, so I wasn't doing it and making a living out of it. I was surrounded by people involved in music. I was actually working as a computer programmer then in London, developing music software. So you remember when all CD-ROMs came out and multimedia and all that? And, so we were doing that, but we were teaching people how to play guitar, but we were using some revolutionary techniques. So we were mounting cameras inside the guitar so you could see what the strum hand was doing and all that. And so I was working with some friends basically in a little broom cupboard in the middle of nowhere in London, developing this software, and it was really good fun. But it wasn't enough for me really. You know, I wanted to learn more about the technology behind music, which was becoming more and more interesting to me at that time. So yeah, I started an MSc, which I was doing in the afternoon. So I was driving to West London in the morning, and I was working as a programmer, and then at 1 o'clock I'd leave, and then I'd be back into central London, and I'd be studying till 6, and then I was working in a bar in the evening. So then I'd go home, and then I'd work in a bar until 2 in the morning, and then I'd go to sleep, and then I'd get up and do that. And it sounds quite crazy now, but it was brilliant. It was really good fun. It was all, you know, everything was happening, and I met so many people on that master's course at City University, and made so many good friends, and learned so much, you know, about the craft of music technology, and you know, all that. So it was a good time. It was a really good time.
What advice would you give to somebody starting in music production? You know, they're looking to become a producer, they're looking to write dance tracks or whatever. What bit of advice would you give them?
I mean, the single bit of advice I've always given to anybody, or just even to myself, is just everything in art, and particularly music, is about authenticity. And if you're authentic, you will be good, you know, because that's the whole point. If you're trying to copy something, it's so difficult to copy something that's successful, because it's already been done. And what you'll find, you know, I've been in studios with people, and they've slowed, like, whatever's number one at the time, they've slowed it down, you know, tried to work out what's going on with the hi-hats, then tried to reprogram it, then going back and trying to, you know, and it's just crazy. It's like, what are you doing?
So spend your time getting your own ideas down, and you know, even if it doesn't sound great, if somebody else hears it, they haven't heard that before, and that's the buzz. Definitely,
that is the buzz. If you move one person, I mean, the most beautiful thing that ever happens to me with any of this is when someone messages me and says, like, someone messaged me a couple of years ago and said, "Oh, your first single changed my life," and I was like, "Wow, you know, that's really amazing that you touch just one person with your music, and you've made a massive impact on the world, in my view." Trying to this obsession with just trying to be, you know, the best at some kind of genre because you've heard this record and you want to do that, and you think you can do it, because to me, it's just not what it's about. So yeah, it's all about, everything is about authenticity and just remaining authentic in everything you do. I mean, all the tools and the craft and everything else will just come naturally, you know, because it will work. You just got to have the ideas. Yeah.
That's it. Talking of ideas, you were very much an acid house innovator when you released Psych as Doggy, and then Labyrinth as Demonic. What got you into that scene?
Again, so I mean, this feeds on nicely from the last thing, really. I mean, I wouldn't say I was into the scene, because obviously there was no internet back then, and I was just a good little Indian boy who didn't drink, or certainly didn't do anything more serious than that. You know, I was just used to do my homework, and then I'd play on the computer and play music. You know? So it's all a bit weird. I mean, I did end up getting, you know, picked up and driven out to raves in the middle of nowhere to perform live. You know, well, live. You know, just stand there and do this with everything was switched off. You know, and there's like thousands of people all off their heads raving. But yeah, I think again, that was just authenticity, really. That Psyche is a really special song to me, because A, I don't really know where it came from, and B, it doesn't really sound like anything else from that era, to me at least, because I wasn't trying to be anyone.
Do you think they sampled it for Tricky Disco on Warp Records? Have you heard that? Because I think they nicked some of your ideas there, I think, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a happy accident.
I don't know. I mean,
everyone was using that synth at that time, and that's how it goes, isn't it? A sound becomes popular.
Yeah, and you know, there's so many kind of strange little things that happen then. I mean, I really loved a song called Infiltrate 202 by Alternate at the time, and I used to listen to it on the bus on the way to college, and I used to remember thinking, that bleep is so good. I'm going to sample that and use it on a track.
Yeah.
And then I found out recently that yeah, that was a sample of the bleep I'd done on my record in the first place. So
sampled by the
just,
samplers.
Yeah.
It's like mirrors, isn't it? It just goes on and on and on, back and back and back. Yeah,
recursively sampling your own record, you know. But yeah, and obviously the laws were different in those days. I.e., there weren't any, so you could just sample anything and get away with it. So, yeah, I don't know. In answer to your question, I really don't know. But Tricky Disco is a great record. That's all I know about it. I still listen to it to this day.
So a Psych and Labyrinth. People should check them out. Just go onto YouTube and look for them. They're absolutely fantastic and right at the start of the scene. They're really, really good. Right, my final question, because the talent wants to come back on. That's Kath, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. So my final question is, and you'll probably go full screen for this, is how would you describe your current sound? Disco, ambient, electronica? Over to you.
The current, do you mean the stuff with Wolfgang? If you're talking about the stuff
No. The stuff you're doing live yourself, your stuff. So anything that you're going to put out as a solo artist.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's so many different types of music in there. I mean, they're all ultimately electronic they're all rooted in electronics because that's just my passion, really. I suppose I'd just describe it as melodic electronic music. Some of it's dancey, some of it's very electro, some of it's poppy, some of it's soundtracky, film soundtracky. Is soundtracky a word? Anyway, I think you know what I mean. There's lots of different types in there, lots of different styles. Very difficult to pinpoint it as just one thing. So there's so much stuff that I've worked on and so many different types. Yeah. Oh, it's you again, Cathy. Hello.
Hello.
Amazing how you do that.
It's a magic trick, isn't it? I'm sitting there listening to how people are nicking samples from other people, and there were no rules back in the day. Excellent stuff. Let's go back to those days. Right, I'm back because I need your help, Peter, because you are a musical genius, and I am hopeless, completely hopeless. I have tried various instruments. I'm not allowed to sing in the house because your man there, he's a singer, and it offends him if I sing. So I've tried guitar, that didn't work. So I'm thinking keyboards. Maybe keyboards would be the thing for me. So if you had a complete novice numpty, what advice would you give to get started on keyboards?
To get started with keyboards, right? Do you mean in terms of being able to play them?
Yes, I can't read music, I can't do anything, but I'm thinking maybe keyboards is the thing. Is there like a really basic keyboard and a way that you would recommend learning?
You know what? I'm actually just not a very good keyboard player, and
oh damn!
I'm probably a terrible person to ask that question.
I'm screwed.
Going back to that original thing we were talking about, you know, about being technically proficient at something. I mean, in a way, I've kind of pushed back against learning to play it properly because I think it will. I think
someone's just suggested I play the triangle in the chat.
Yeah. I could probably teach you how to play that. Yeah, I think
I get away with that.
I have a bit of fear that the better I am at playing something like the keyboards, the worse the music I'll write will be. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just think I will play chords that I've learned. At the moment, I couldn't tell you what chord I'm playing. I couldn't even tell you what note I'm playing half the time, without stopping to like think, right, that's C, D, E. Oh, it's G. You know, I really am not a brilliant keyboard player. But I feel my way around it, and it's all just sound, you know, it's sounds and noises, and just working out how to make a nice sound from this tool, you know. That's all that's important to me. So sorry, I don't know what I can do that for, unless, I mean, there are lots of brilliant tools, you know, with Ableton, for example, which which do help, because what you can do is you can switch like the scale tool on, and it will mean you can't hit a bomb note, you know. So you can say, right, I want to play in C minor, and it will make sure that every key on the keyboard, if it's not in that scale, it will just map to the nearest one. So basically you can press anything and it will sound okay. It's fantastic.
I think I just, because years and years ago I had a really basic keyboard. I just remember if you switched it on, there was like a demo track that would play. If I just sat there and just pretended I was playing that, I might get away with it. Oh, you're being described as too modest in the chat. Brett is describing you as far too modest.
I mean, it's just honest, really. I mean, there's, you know, you have to be honest, don't you, about everything. Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, so, like I say, someone suggested the triangle. Someone else has suggested the bazooka just now. I might get. Do you remember Izal toilet paper, and you used to fold it over a comb and play it?
I do, yeah.
See, I can do that. I can do that.
What was that even doing as toilet paper? I mean,
did you have that in your school? That's what we had in our school. Yeah.
There's a traumatic memory. It was good as tracing paper, though, wasn't it? You know, let's give it some credit.
It was, really. I mean, I'm sure our younger viewers don't know what Izal toilet paper is, but Google it. And that was what you used to have in primary school. In fact, I do remember once I dyed my hair. I sprayed blue hairspray on and got thrown out of the classroom and told to wash it off. And all we had was cold water and Izal toilet paper to try and get this blue spray. It didn't go well. It didn't go well.
Yeah, I wonder when they phased that out. I wonder when they phased it out.
I don't know.
I wonder who decided it. I wonder who decided it.
Somebody who had a really nasty sense about them. I'm sure it still exists, you know. I'm sure it does. Well, I'm going to have to check because I'm going to be playing it on the comb. So, you know, what can I... But going back to music again, PlayStation and Sony, when I was going through your bio, apparently you wrote for both of them. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I've always, again, like I was saying earlier, one of my escapes when I was little was computers and these whole worlds that you can create. And I loved games. I didn't play games really. I just loved the idea of them. You know, I loved that all these kind of little worlds were just coming out of this computer. And I was reading an interesting thing the other day where someone was talking about computers because the ZX Spectrum was 40 years old and all these people were being interviewed about it. And they were saying it's the first time that, you know, kids of a certain age had this revolutionary new thing or this kind of phenomenon that basically was at day zero. It just started then, home computers, and your parents had no reference points for it. It wasn't like your parents used to have this, but they weren't as good. They just never had them. So it was like a whole new world. So that was what was fascinating to me. And then, as I grew up, there was an opportunity to work with a guy called Jeff Minter, who was a really a kind of famous programmer from the 80s. He was like a hippie and he was into llamas and all that kind of stuff. And he's quite a cool guy. And I ended up working with him for some work he was doing on a PlayStation game. And then that developed into working on another game for him and doing a lot more music. I did 8 pieces on a song called a game called Polybius, which was like a virtual reality game of the year in Edge magazine. And actually Polybius was used on Trent Reznor used it as the video for one of his singles, just him playing.
No, really?
Yeah. He put his music over the top of it though. He didn't use mine.
Damn.
So yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, it's really fun to work on music for games, you know, and thinking about the whole flow of how they progress and just trying to
I was going to say that the process must be different.
Yeah, it is. It's very different to writing for like film or kind of certain moods. I mean, this game, the mood tends to persist throughout a game like that, like an arcade game where it's all full on action. It's not like you have a somber bit or you have like a reflective bit. It's all very much about growing, and it's like going through the chapters of a book and building. And yeah, I like that. It's fascinating to me, you know, and it's really nice to get feedback from people to say that, you know, it just makes it takes the game into another level for them, you know. Yeah, I'd like to do more of that actually. I think it's something I'd like to do more of. Yeah.
Keep an eye out on what you're doing with that in the future then. So then we're gonna flick back again now, and we're heading into the final part of the show where it gets, you know, terribly serious. So, you know, get ready. So we've heard a lot about a certain place in the UK from your good friend Wolfgang, and he mentioned it several times when he was on the show, which, as we said, it's now on our bucket list to come to Hebden Bridge. But if anyone didn't see the episode with Wolfgang, which the link is in the description if you want to go and watch it, but if you didn't see it, we've got a little clip coming up of what Wolfgang said about the wonderful Hebden Bridge. So we're just going to play it, and then we want to talk to you about wonderful Hebden Bridge.
Yeah,
if
sure.
My producer is
that
ready,
there are some angels out, took me sometimes on my hand and showed me to the right step or to the right door where I should go through. I had some very, very astonishing meetings which showed me, Wolfgang, that had to be today that I am here to meet some people, this one, especially Peter from Hebden Bridge. That was not planned, but it had to be. So someone planned it. It was not planned by me. So that is, it took a very big step in my own musical career and in Peter's, I think, that we came together like in a brotherhood, and a big friendship started from the first hour. When you look on the backside of the album, there is a photo, and it's from Peter and me. And we know each other just 1 hour. He picked me up at Leeds, Bradford from the airport with my wife. And he brought us in a 1 hour drive to a wonderful landscape over the hills down to Hebden Bridge, to this wonderful romantic little town, and put us into our hotel. When we came from the hotel out, my wife took that picture. And you see, we look at each other as we know us since years. That speaks everything. So this was one of the angels who put us together, which I really believe.
Yeah, there's more things that we don't know.
How interesting how connected you two are, because that's the exact thing that you were saying earlier, the clip that we chose.
It's
that famous picture.
It's strange, you know, it's odd. But
yeah, really weird.
One of those moments, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Hebden Bridge is a really beautiful place as well, and I've lived here for 18 or 19 years now. So it's a special place. There's lots of interesting, lovely people here. A lot of the people who live here are people who visited friends and then decided that it's so beautiful they want to move here themselves. And you know, I've raised a family here, and it's just a very special place. You know, it's a good place for kids. Just always feels like you're on holiday. You know, the first day after I moved here, woke up in the morning and walk around the town, and it's kind of like you're on holiday. And I still have that feeling to this day. You know, it's really like that.
Well, what? Because you're originally from Birmingham. So how did you discover Hebden Bridge in the first place? Did you go there on a holiday?
Yeah, my now wife, when we met, she was living in Hebden Bridge. And I went to university in Manchester, and we met through a mutual friend at one of his parties, and he lived in Manchester at the time, and she lived in a house with him, and I used to come up and blah blah blah. But yeah, she ended up moving to Hebden Bridge because she was working in Leeds, and Hebden Bridge is a perfect place if you work in Manchester or Leeds, because it's halfway between the two. So I mean, I was in Manchester this morning actually, and just, you know, it's half an hour to get back. You know, it can take you half an hour to get from the outskirts of Manchester into the centre, so it's very convenient. But it's not got all the craziness of a city. It's not so small that it's like a little village, but it's not like a big chaotic city either. It's just right, you know. It's a nice place to live. Sorry, was that the question?
It was the question. You're not going off. Somebody earlier said that you were definitely not waffling, and they're thoroughly enjoying it, and everyone's calling for a part 2 of the show. So you're doing fantastically well. Everyone wants you back. Well, we're hoping that. We're hoping when Magazine 2 comes out, we'll have you both back on together. That would be fantastic.
That would be great.
Really yeah. But okay, I'm going to ask again that question that Wolfgang was talking about. It was when I asked him, does he believe in ghosts or spiritual matters or anything along those lines, because he said, oh, well, an angel must have made that happen. So I have to ask you the same question I ask all my guests is, do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever seen a ghost? And also, are you superstitious?
It's kind of weird, really, because I am a little bit superstitious, despite the fact that I don't really believe in all that stuff. I mean, I do believe in things like karma, but I believe that they're just rooted in very kind of common sense principles. In that, I think if you behave in a good way to people, or if you're a good person, you kind of exude a certain energy, and you attract other good people, and you attract interesting things to happen. And I believe that's what happened with me and Wolfgang. I mean, if I was the kind of person who was, who had just one intention of doing something in a certain way. Wolfgang's he's an incredibly experienced and charismatic and interesting guy, and he's seen it all before. It goes back to that whole thing of authenticity and just being yourself. You will attract other people similar to you, or have similar kind of ideas about how the world works. So, I kind of believe in things like karma in that sense. I am sometimes superstitious. If I see like one magpie, I still kind of, do whatever it is you do. You're meant to like salute it and all that, which is crazy, really. But these are just
just
things that you heard when you were little, and you can't really get them out of your head, can you? So I don't know, and I think that if you see one magpie and you believe that, in the same way, I think then in your head you're starting to think, oh my God, I'm going to have some bad luck at some point. What is it? And then you can kind of start to think something is bad, even though it isn't, because you're in that frame of mind, So it's all a long roundabout way of saying
it is.
That, there's a very kind of physical explanation for many of these things that happen. I'm not religious in any way either, or anything like that. I just don't believe in any of it. I just think we are just physical beings, and you can change. I suppose it's quantum physics, isn't it? That's where we're going. Are we going to go into quantum physics?
We're not going that deep. We're going into biscuits soon. So it's me you're talking to.
That's my favourite brand of biscuits, quantum physics. Have you tasted them?
Oh dear. But I think what we said about superstitions, a lot of it is because they're based in fact. Like people say about the number 13. Well, you know where that came from, right?
Yeah.
The Last Supper, and there were 13 people, so obviously that's going to be a pretty unlucky number. I think the thing with magpies is something like they mate for life. So if you only see one, it means something tragic's happened. Therefore, something terrible is going to happen to you. So they have their basis something somewhere, but
Well, I still
to be taken with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, when I'm naming my files, or if I'm doing a mix, normally when you do a song, you mix it and you keep mixing it over and over again, and you'll add a number to the end of it. I'll always skip 13 because number 13 is never going to be the right one. It's never going to work.
No. It's just like it's like we go to Vegas. There is no floor 13 in a hotel because gamblers are notoriously suspicious. Now, I don't know if Andrew, who a comment just came up from, is actually being sarcastic or not, because it says, thank you for this really insightful interview. Now, I'm not sure if that was Ash's part or the fact that we're going to talk about biscuits, but on that note, we're going to be very, very intellectual and bring up a picture on screen that I found on Peter's Facebook page, which some of our younger viewers may not know, but there was an amazing show called Rainbow, and this is Peter with two of the characters from that show, George and Zippy. Peter, can you please explain this picture to us?
That was my original band when I was 17. That was a band I drummed for. Zippy was the vocalist, and George played the triangle. No, that's
were Rod, Jane, and Freddie your backing vocalists?
Yeah, they were the backing vocalists. No, there's actually a really cool place in Bradford called the National Media Museum, and sometimes when I'm in Bradford, and I will just go there and have a wander around because it's just fantastic, and they've got lots of original So they've got original Daleks in there, and they've got the original rainbow characters, you know, all that kind of stuff. Highly recommend it. I'll say all this now. Someone must have been say it closed down about 3 years ago, but no, I think it's
but, just when I'm booking my train ticket, come on.
Yeah, but it is brilliant. It's a really cool place, and they had this whole Game On exhibition on the top floor with loads of retro computers and, you know, with all old games fired up. So I used to just love going there. But I had this thing where I deliberately just try and always take a photo of myself, trying to look really intellectual near Zippy and George.
You did. I think you look very, very intellectual there. Come on.
I just like the idea that Zippy was looking at me, and kind of.
So talking intellectual, here's another picture that we found on your Facebook, which appears to be you in the Countdown studio. Were you on Countdown?
See, everyone's going to think I just spend my days just wandering around places and watching Countdown, which I basically do when I'm not writing music. So big fan. I was a big fan of Countdown for a long. I love word games. You know, I just got this whole. I just love anagrams and stuff, and I love Countdown. So I've always watched it since I was a student, and I've always been pretty good at it. So friends always told me you should go on that because you always win. And so I'd had a couple of glasses of orange juice one night with my wife, and I went on the website and applied. And a few days later, they phoned me and said, "Yeah, you should, come to an interview." So I went to an interview, and basically this interview is like there's about 30 people in a room, and you all play a mock version of Countdown, and everyone's getting like 2-letter words and like tea or like pig or something, and they put up what is obviously a 9-letter word with slightly rearranged just to check that you are, decent at it. And so yeah, I think I can remember it actually. It was I think it was plectrums, guitar plectrums.
Oh, okay.
But they'd actually put it up, plectrum at the end with the S of it, so it's splectrum, right?
Oh,
and and you were getting people saying, "I've got a 2, me," and things like that. And you do it every day just because, they love the whole experience. But yeah, obviously I said, plectrums, and it was like, right, you're on the show. So before I knew it, I forgot. Yeah. And it was brilliant. It was good fun. Des O'Connor was the host, and Barry Norman, who's
that's a good picture. Yeah,
they're both.
And Carol Vorderman was still on it then. I saw her in the picture as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you win your episode?
What was the next question?
See, I'm allowed to ask because I was a contestant on the chase, you see. So, although I got to the final chase, I didn't actually get the money because we had Anne as our chaser and she beat us. But if you ever want to see me on the chase, there's a clip on YouTube, and I'll just prepare you all for it now. It's not what it sounds. The clip is called "Chase Funny Moments: The Giant Cock of Trafalgar Square." But it was to do with a cockerel, okay? I'm just saying.
I think I've got a filter on my Google. I don't think that's going to come up.
It was one of those Bradley collapses and falls apart with a fit of a giggles moment and couldn't actually read the question. It all went horribly wrong. I will do. I will do.
Yeah, but I didn't win. I lost on the conundrum. But
oh, those bloody conundrums!
I should have won. I mean, part of me
drive me insane.
Yeah, it was fun anyway. It was a very fun experience.
Well, that's the thing. It's a fun day out, isn't it? You get the whole experience of it. We were sort of on the train going home, and I suddenly went, "Oh bloody hell! I didn't win any money," but it didn't really seem to matter at the time.
You just do it, so you can you've done it, you've been there, and you had a go, and it was good fun. I like to do these things, I like to do these things.
Of course. So we've kept you a long time now, and we're probably thinking around this time you're in need of a cup of tea or coffee. So here's my beautiful Reignite mug, which is made by someone in the chat. Yeah, someone in the chat, Danielle, who has a site called Divine Crafts Dublin on Facebook. She made that for me. And on the back, we've even got I love Jaffa cakes. So obviously she knows me very, very well. So the questions, the important questions of the day. Is it tea or is it coffee? Do you like Jaffa cakes? And if not, what is your favourite biscuit?
Tea and coffee, depending on what time of day it is. I'm a big fan of both. Biscuits, always have a packet of biscuits next to me. These.
Oh.
Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah, you're fine. Fox's Crunch Creams.
These are the best. And,
good call.
I'm a big fan of the Fox's Crunch Cream. I'm sure it's full of like all kinds of chemicals and nasty stuff, but there's something special about these biscuits that, I've just got hundreds and hundreds, thousands of packets of these. If I open that door, they all just fall in through the door.
I was going to ask you, have you tried these yet? Digestive creams. I've just come across them. It's little digestives with a vanilla cream in the middle. Now, if you like Fox's Crunch Creams, I think you'd go for these. They're really, really good.
That's a more kind of upmarket version of these, I think, isn't it? I would say.
It's sort of, it's a digestive, therefore it's not so sweet. It's the sort of thing you would have with cheese normally, and perhaps it's in fact cheese. Yes, cheese. What is your favourite cheese? We haven't done that either.
No, I'm not a big cheese. All cheeses is just cheese to me, I'm afraid. I'm not.
Really?
Cheddar, red, less, all that kind of. There's a big new cheese shop that's opened in Hebden. Actually, it's got all fancy kind of like loads of them. And I just go in there and just think it just all looks the same to me.
Now you give me another reason to come to Hebden Bridge. I've got to come for the cheese. Come on, we'll go for a cheese tasting session.
No, I'm not much of a cheese connoisseur, I'm afraid.
And were you a fan of the Jaffa cakes? These are the posh ones. These are the Marks and Spencer's ones. They're really good.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, the Jaffa cake is like it's almost like a health product, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. So they're tasty and they're healthy. So what more?
That, my friend, is foreshadowing, because at the end of the show we have a fascinating fact to end on, and you've just done some foreshadowing there. But we'll get back to that. I'm really overexcited today because Jaffa Cakes have just announced on their Instagram page today that they've brought out a white Jaffa cake, of which there are only 40 packets available, and you have to enter a competition to win them. Guess who's entered?
I'm getting the impression that you're a bit of a Jaffa cake fan. Is that?
Well, I didn't realise until I saw the post on Instagram that they're known as Jaffanatics. So clearly that's what I am. So right. Now carrying on with the serious stuff here, I have in front of me a list of 60 questions.
Okay.
So what we are going to do is it's random picking time. So anything could come up here. We have 1 to 60 in our numbers, and we're going to do 3 questions. So you can pick a number while we're scrolling your socials across the screen so that people can see how to get in touch with you. You have to pick a number from 1 to 60 and get a random question.
Okay.
Give me a number.
Well, 32, definitely.
Oh, okay, 32. How good or bad are you with modern technology? What were the chances?
I think we probably answered that one. Well, I think we've covered that. I love technology, and I know everyone sort of is very kind of a bit, no one speaks well about social media, and obviously there's lots of bad sides to it, but there's so many brilliant sides to being able to just connect with people all over the world in that way. For me, and a lot of the things that happened on the album, some of those started just through contacts through social media, and if that didn't exist, and just getting back in touch with all these people. When I was talking about how Infiltrate was a sample of one of my old records, and I used to love it, I think I was going to sample it, I only found out about all this through modern technology, and using it as a platform for good things like that. I mean, it's great, and I'd say I'm pretty good with it. I like it. I spend a lot of time using technology.
I'll agree with you, because I'm looking at a lot of people that are in our chat today. I'm in a big sort of community in the Alice Cooper world, with the guitarist, the guitarist he has, Ryan Roxy, and these people. they call themselves, we call ourselves the RGA, the Roxy Guitar Army, and loads of the people in the chat. And it's only because during lockdown, we all connected on live streams and everything. And we've become such huge friends, and we all support each other in everything we do. And technology can certainly be a force for good. Absolutely, it can.
Absolutely, yeah, isn't it? It's brilliant. I think it's brilliant in so many ways. I mean, and this, what we're doing now, we wouldn't be doing this, would we?
Of course we wouldn't. No, I'd have to come to Hebden Bridge and come and sit in your front room and have Epoxy's Crunch Cream to do this.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, that was question 1. That was an interesting one. So you've got 2 more to pick from.
49.
49. All right, 49. Okay, quick fire question. What's your preference? City, country, or seaside?
Oh. I would say seaside ultimately, because I could just sit and look at the sea all day and just feel totally peaceful about everything. You know, chances if you're in a city or it depends what we're talking about. But yeah, the seaside, I would say, in terms of just peace and having a nice reflective time on my own.
And do you have a favourite area, like a favourite beach or a favourite part of the country? Are you a sort of a Devon Cornwall person? Is there somewhere up in the northeast, or where would you choose?
I spend a lot of time in the lakes because my wife's from there and her family still live there, so we go there quite a lot, and it's really nice to me because before I met her, I'd never been up there, and I mean, there's certain parts of the lakes where you just feel like you're on another planet, let alone another part of the country. I mean, like Derwent water, for example. I mean, it's just absolutely breathtaking. You know, in autumn, you can stand on the side of the lake there, and you can point your camera in any direction, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing, just mind-blowingly beautiful. So yeah, I love it. I do love it up there. I do love it in Devon and Cornwall as well, actually. But I'd have to say the lakes, really, just because there's so many important memories there for me. Yeah.
Well, we only just discovered, because we went to Whitby the other week. It's the first time we've been across the North Yorkshire Moors. Oh my God, that is jaw-dropping.
Stunning.
Absolutely stunning.
And Northumberland, when you go further up, I mean, I went there for the first time a couple of months ago. Absolutely beautiful, breathtaking, and hardly anybody there. It's like, where is everyone? You know, it's like.
See, that's another thing that I always say about obviously the whole COVID and shutdown and everything, which obviously was dreadful. But a good side has come from it, because I think a lot of people are not travelling overseas, and their first thought was always, "Oh, let's jump on a plane and go somewhere fabulous." And we haven't discovered what's on our own doorstep, and I think people are doing that more now.
Yeah. And I think it's ultimately, you know, and I mean, the weather can obviously always play a bit of a factor, which is why. But I mean, when the weather's good, I mean, there's some stunning places on the seaside in this country for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely right. You got one more. From our 1 to 60 picks.
It's got to be 60, hasn't it?
That's it. Got to go all the way to the end of number 60. Oh, okay. When you get drunk, what kind of a drunk are you? Are you giggly? Are you silly? Are you aggressive? Do you dance? What are you like when you're drunk, Peter?
Right. Well, I'm not a very good drinker because I just can't handle it. So I don't get drunk because I don't know. I can't. I don't really like the feeling of being drunk, to be honest with you. But I do like being mildly tipsy, I have to say, on occasion. Yeah. And I tend to just be. I'm definitely not aggressive. I've never been aggressive in my life at any point, and certainly I'm not after I've had a drink. I certainly don't dance either. I'm not a dancer. I can't dance. I've tried. It looks really bad.
Are you like me, that you chair dance? I can chair dance like this, and that's about it, really.
I'm always the one lurking in the shadows on the edge of the, dance floor, sort of listening, trying to work out where the hi-hat's coming from, what drum machine the hi-hat's coming from. Don't ever go to a nightclub with me. It's terrible.
No, when we come to Hebden Bridge, we won't go to a nightclub. We'll just go to the cheese shop and educate you on cheese instead.
Yeah. And I think I'm probably just a little bit placid and moderately giggly, I would say. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. See, we've got insightful knowledge about you now. Right. So We've put your socials on the screen. And anyone, if they want to find Peter, all the stuff is also in the show notes. So go there for them. So people know how to get in touch with you. And I was going to say what's next, but I guess the tour continues, right?
Yeah, the tour's continuing. So Oslo next weekend, and then I think we've got some in the UK. So Cardiff, Leeds, Sunderland, Preston, and then we've got Amsterdam, and then there's a few in autumn like Brighton and Guildford and places like that. I told you I'm terrible at remembering dates and facts. I was awful at history.
Don't worry, we've scrolled them up, so anyone that wants, you can rewind, or they can click on the links and they can find it from there. So don't worry, people will find you.
Partly why I keep putting all my dates on Instagram is just because then I know where I can find them if I need to go and check. So
here, I've literally got post-it notes stuck everywhere. With I remember nothing at all. So
really
magazine. Yeah, I imagine, and we're, like I say, hopefully we'll get to Birmingham. If not, we'll be at Guildford. We're definitely coming to one or the other for sure.
Be brilliant to have you there. Have you both there?
Oh, thank you. Lovely to meet you both actually for real as well. And are you still on course for? I know it's a long way ahead, but are you still on course for Magazine 2 coming out in March 2023?
Yeah. So I mean, Magazine 2 is pretty much there. You know, I mean,
is it really?
Me and Wolfgang wrote so many songs together over lockdown, particularly. I mean, we did have we've got 18 or 20 songs, you know, done. There's one or two that we wanted to work on that are in progress, and I think we'll probably start working on those when we finish touring and nail those. But I think the actual release date is going to be October next year, not March. I think they wanted to, the label wanted to put it out in October. So, but yeah, I mean, part of that is because once you finish the record, there's like a 6 or 7 month backlog on vinyl at the moment, getting it pressed. So even if it was ready by December this year, you know, we couldn't put it out until August at the earliest anyway. So it's a big problem at the moment, vinyl. It's tricky.
Well, good things come to those who wait. That's what they say.
Yes. Yeah. In the end.
Unless there is anything else that you would like to add that I have not covered or missed, I'm gonna start the close down of the show and give people a fascinating fact that they need to take away for the weekend.
Yeah, I think just to say thanks, really. It's I know Wolfgang really enjoyed the interview as well. He did a couple of months ago, and just thanks for inviting me. It's been great, and we look forward to meeting you both. Yeah, it'd be great to meet you both at the show soon. You've been an absolute star, and you are. Yeah, you have to come back, because the number of comments I've seen scrolling about part two. Peter's wonderful. We've enjoyed having Peter on. So thank you so much for taking the time. As I say, I know you're really busy at the moment, so we really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who tuned in as well. You know, it's really, really kind.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. And so before you go, I am going to give you a very interesting fact about Jaffa cakes.
Right.
Did you know that sports nutritionalists have said that Jaffa cakes are a favourite of footballers? They are light, they are low in fat, and they are good carbohydrates. And going down the rabbit hole even more, I found out that in 1992, Sir Alex Ferguson, who was then in charge of Manchester United, employed a nutritionist who confiscated custard creams, bourbons and chocolate digestives, and said that all players had to have 5 Jaffa cakes on training days and 3 on match days. And then they went on to win 13 titles. Just saying.
And I'm a Man United fan, and I remember Rio Ferdinand used to have them in his socks.
In his socks?
Yeah, he used to get them out during a game from his socks, yeah.
The chocolate melt.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't want to eat one of those, would you?
See, there's cheese and chocolate combined at the end there. Anyway, listen, it has been an absolute pleasure and a delight having you on today. Thanks for coming on. Really, really loved having you. And we are just going to close the show. We'll keep you there for 1 second, because all I want to say to everyone is thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much to Peter. And The next show we have is going to air on June the 3rd at 6 p.m. UK time, and it is none other than Billy Morrison, who is Billy Idol's guitarist. So if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and hit your notifications, because you don't want to miss that one. So once again, thank you so much for being with us, Peter. Really appreciate your time. We're gonna stick you backstage, and thank you all for coming. And remember, stay reignited, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.